Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for Pastor Basie, who will lead us in prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us all take a moment and bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask that your Spirit fill this place tonight. We ask that you wash over our hearts and replace hate with love, replace anger with compassion, and replace greed with empathy. Lord, this is the season of Advent, and we ask that you remind this village and abroad that Christ is Christmas, and through him we have the peace that we truly seek every day. And we ask that you grant us that peace as we join our voices together to deal with issues that concern us and so many others. And Lord, we just give thanks for you being here with us. In Jesus' heavenly name, we give thanks and pray. Amen.
Lisa, you want to take roll call?
I'd like to do the oath of offices. Would everyone like to do it together, or do you want to do it separate? Do it together. I like together then. If you guys want to stand up, and you have to raise your right hand and repeat after me. Not all of you, just the new incumbents. So you, yep, yeah, we'll do them all together. Sure. Yeah. All right, I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
The Constitution of the state.
the Constitution of the state,
And that I will faithfully discharge my duties of my office.
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties of my office
In and for the village of Blissfield.
in and for the village of Blissfield,
County of Lenawee.
County of Lenawee,
State of Michigan.
State of Michigan,
According to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. I do need you to sign a piece of paper when we're done, and I have a certificate for you also.
Welcome.
All right. James Eitzen.
Present.
Glenn Newsom. Here. Jerry Hayes.
Here.
Mike Gunner.
Here.
Eric Rogers.
Here.
Timothy Ladders.
Present. It's, I get a motion to approve the minutes of November 14th.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the November 14th, 2022 meeting as presented.
Second.
Take the roll.
Mike.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Gwen. Yes. James.
Yes. Minutes are approved. Presentations and communications. Okay, I'll turn this over to you.
Well, you guys, can you actually do the zoning minutes that I emailed
Oh,
earlier
yes.
today? I apologize for not getting those attached for you guys as well.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of the zoning board of appeals meeting on November 14th, 2022.
Support. Moved and supported. Please, you want to call the roll?
Eric.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Gwen. Yes. James.
Yes. Those minutes are approved. Moving on to presentations and communications.
Public hearing, is that where we're at?
Yes, public hearing PZ 220901 rezone application.
So I will talk to you guys a little bit about this under the new business portion, but under the public comment section, I do want to let you guys know that we have mailed out letters to everybody within 300 feet of this property. And we received 5 letters back that were checked. They do not object with no comments and were signed. Outside of that, I've not received any comments either for or against. And again, we'll talk about this under new business, and then I would just open it up if any public do have comments on this application.
You have to have a vote on that, to open up the public hearing.
No, this one is really just the planning commission held the formal public hearing for this application. This is just an extra step to make sure that anybody has the opportunity to present any either for or against information to you guys. So it's really just an extra opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, Village Council 2023 meeting calendar. Does anybody have any input on the proposed calendar dates? No. Planning Commission 2023 meeting calendar. Do you have any Planning Commission representatives here? Jerry,
Looks good to me.
seeing no comment. Parks and Rec Advisory Board 2023 meeting calendar. Glenn, I know you're involved there.
I am under the assumption, I'm gonna look at Eric right now and confirm, he's saying everything's okay.
Yes, go blue, yeah, I mean, yes.
And lastly, the DBA Main Street 2023 meeting calendar. Laura, Mike, I guess I'm now involved.
That's good.
All right, great. Moving on to the agenda. I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll support.
Moved and supported. Lisa, you want to call the roll?
Mike,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes,
Tim,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes. Motion passes. Open the floor for public comments on items on the agenda. Seeing none, continue to move on to unfinished business. Number 1, approve the library. Okay, now,
You ready for me?
yes.
Okay, so I did send you guys an email today, and I apologize for the lateness of that, but also, we had brought these to you guys, I don't even remember the exact meeting now, a couple months ago. And the library board was present. There was some conversation about changes that we wanted to see. And at that time, we had decided to get those changes put into the agreement so that you guys could see it and then bring it back to you. Since that time, I did make the changes that council had asked for at the last meeting. I shared those changes with Bob and the library board. The library board did meet and they have proposed some changes. So when you look at the agreements, and we can start with either one first, but they're gonna look a little bit similar. Anything in blue was a change that I made following the council meeting. Anything in red is a change that the library at this time has proposed. And do you guys have a preference? You want to start with employee or facility?
I just have a quick question, Danielle, please.
Yes.
You had included as an attachment in the agenda, the library agreements. So the one that we received today, it's the same one that we saw on the agenda, or this one's just a little bit different? I'm a little confused still.
Sorry, I should have clarified. The ones I emailed later this afternoon were some changes from legal and myself in reviewing and looking at it. And I'll talk about that
Okay,
as
gotcha.
well.
Okay, all right.
I just wanted to make sure you knew you did have it in your email, I guess.
Yes, okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. So we did have the one initially. We saw that. This one has now had a little bit of a revision on it between you.
It's
and
really
council.
mostly comments at this
Okay.
point, yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Do you guys have a preference though? Do you want to start employee or facility?
We'll start with Lisa.
The employee?
Mhm.
Okay, so employee, the changes the library have in red, under provision of employees with experience and qualifications, that I don't have any concerns there. And then as determined by the library. The only thing that we would like to add here is just and consistent with personnel policies and procedures of the village. Otherwise, we're good with their addition there. Under number 3, administration, we would like to have that same comment that it's consistent with the personnel policies and procedures. And then to also identify that it's including the library director. So the library is asking that it reads all library staff are employees of the village. And as such, the village is responsible for supervision of all library employees. Which is, I guess I'm not necessarily against this, but I'd like some clarification because the library employees actually report to the director who then reports to the board. And that addition that they've made makes it sound like they report to us, which I think is a little confusing. And I'm not sure, I know some of the library board is here, they can maybe clarify what they were going for there.
So.
Yeah.
The reason that is our attorney, because of tax liabilities and that's why it needs to be read that way.
Can you explain tax liabilities?
Because that, if it was
Like employment taxes?
employment taxes and benefits.
Okay.
Because if it wasn't written that way as village employees, then we would be responsible as the library board. But if we do that, and then we say that we're responsible under the library law in managing them and supervising them, then that takes precedent over the village. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Well, what are our attorney's response to that maybe? Would this be something that we discuss? Or how do we do that? I know you're not here, there. How do we handle that, Danielle?
Yeah, I guess I would ask our attorneys on that because I understand completely what Greg is saying, and that part makes sense, but I think that the part that confuses me is that it, like right now, their policies in some instances do differ from ours for our employees. So are they following our procedures and policies, or are they making their own? And I don't know that reads clearly. I get the tax purpose, but the whole point of this is we're saying the entire agreement is us saying they're village employees and we lease them to you. So wouldn't, it seems like that would clear up the tax thing, but I guess Dave, Bill, do you guys comments or?
I understand how there could be an employment tax issue, but I don't know why having the employees be library employees as opposed to village employees, which is what they are, would make any difference to that. And Jim, you have a lot more experience from the tax standpoint than I do, but employment taxes are employment taxes are employment taxes. It doesn't matter who pays them. If the issue is that having them be village employees versus library employees has some impact on the tax status of the library, that makes more sense to me. But having the village withhold their employment taxes and lease them back to the library, I don't understand the impact of that.
Yeah, I guess from our perspective in that particular paragraph, it was not so much a concern of a clarification that these were village employees under this agreement. That's very clear. So I don't think there's an employment tax issue. More of the ambiguity that was in here were particularly in the first sentence where it talks about the village is responsible for the supervision of all library employees, while later in that same paragraph, it says the library director shall supervise and be responsible for employees working in the library. So that was kind of our, okay, if they're village employees, who's actually supervising these employees? We're fine with them being supervised by the library director and having that spelled out in this agreement. What our concern was, as Danielle was talking about, is that they need to be subject to the policies and procedures as any other village employee. And so as they are supervised by the library director, they also need to be supervised pursuant to the policies and procedures of the villages of the village, just like any other village employee. So that was more of our concern with this, is that it kind of created, it was muddled as far as who is responsible for supervising and managing the employees, and are they subject to the policies and procedures of the village or different ones under the library? So that was our concern with that. Does that make more sense?
I agree with that, because it's not so much the tax stuff or whatever, it's more of the day-to-day operations of
Yes.
who reports to who, if they have a concern or a problem, follows up the chain of command. Do they go to Bob Behringer or do they go to Danielle or the village? And much like their budget operates, they kind of are on their own.
Correct.
It's sort of the same way, we're sort of a rubber stamp on that budget request. We don't create that budget, we don't oversee that budget. So I agree, I think it's confusing for the regular daily employee of how does the chain of command operate?
Correct. Yeah, that was our concern with that.
Thank you.
So are we saying with this agreement that they'll be accountable to the library board? For the library director?
Well, that was how we had proposed it initially, yes. And then I think, like I said, their language, and correct me, library, anybody if I'm wrong, but I think that's what they wanted as well. But I think the addition of the new language kind of muddied that up and made it very unclear who was actually or is supervising them.
So would this wording be reworded? Or are we leaving this as is?
I didn't hear the question.
The question was, will this be going back to be reworked, for lack of better words? Because I'm not hearing that it's how it's written currently.
So what was presented to you is what's been approved by the library board. It will be up to you guys to
Right.
decide if you want to rework it or if you want to accept and approve their changes and the
Okay.
agreements. Because you guys have not taken any action on either of these yet. The library board has.
So, but from hearing from you / the attorneys, it would seem as if we need to go ahead and
Yes, I would like to
Revisit
see a change there
Thank
for
you.
clarification
Yes.
to make it clear who is
yes,
supervising the employees, because if I don't understand, then I don't know how the library employees are supposed to understand.
yes.
Greg, by definition, these are village employees. Doesn't that imply we will withhold and remit on their behalf? Because then we just lease.
Right, and you're leasing it, and the second, under this agreement, the library board may exercise its statutory authority to be responsible for the direct supervision of the library. So that's the second part. So I understand the first one, but then going to the second sentence, that we will use Act, PA 164/1877, that the library board will be responsible for the employees. Or for the library, hire and supervise the library director, and then we give him the authority in our bylaws to take care of ours under the lease.
Well, personnel 1.2 says that the village will be responsible for processing paychecks, which includes payroll, employee information, payment of federal, state, local taxes, filing of all related tax returns, workers' compensation, funding pension, welfare, fringe benefits, et cetera, and goes on. So we've already, within the agreement, addressed, we will be paying those things. So then down below, again, I'm concerned it's just muddying the waters. Who do the employees report to?
We can just strike, the red then. We have a meeting Thursday. So we can go back, based on that and have a discussion and get back to you guys.
Okay.
And that would be my recommendation, to remove
Yeah,
that.
3.1.
If we start in paragraph 3.1 with the library board may exercise the statutory authority under PA 164, blah, 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 in a manner consistent with the personnel policies procedures of the village, and shall be responsible for the direct supervision. I mean, the rest of that's fine.
Okay, fair.
So just strike.
Without having the benefit of the language of 164, PA 164, I'm reluctant to. My impression was that if the library board had the discretion to exercise its authority, then the logical conclusion of that is that the employees aren't leased back. They're employees of the library board. Their compensation, their benefits, and so on and so forth become the responsibility of the library board. And so I think I tend to agree with what Danielle said. This does confuse things by leaving that language in there. If they want that discretion to do that, then we ought to make it clear that that's what happened. But again, without having the language of that statute right in front of me, I think that's a confusing issue.
Correct, because it would be that they not may exercise it, it'd be that they have exercised that.
Yeah. And change the status of the employees from village employees to library board employees.
Because that may be required under that statute, without looking at it to see exactly if that happens, so we'd want to look at that public act to make sure.
So the may would become a shall. Potentially is what,
I don't know because I don't know what.
but I'm saying that's where you.
Potentially, yeah.
Right.
And same with the administration, I mean, the board itself really isn't listed in there. And then again, it's about following that chain of command, that process of if the employee has an issue with the director or whatnot, do they go to the library board? Do they go to the village administrator? How does that operate? That needs to be crystal clear.
Correct.
And if you want it to be that, you know, that the issues that first line, all library staff or employees of the village and as such, they would operate under the adopted village policies and procedures. That takes the supervision part out of it. And it covers that, I guess, ambiguity of whether or not, you know, they're actually a village employee.
Well, there's no doubt they're a village employee. This is just the lease agreement back.
Correct. They are, in order to receive the benefits and for us to make those tax payments, they have to be village employees. Okay. So I've got some notes on that section. So the next part is 3.2, the personnel policies. So the blue there, that it says, however, the library agrees to adopt or reference the Village of Blissfield personnel policies and procedures as it relates to employee benefits. And we actually just want to remove the as it relates to employee benefits. Goodness, can't talk tonight. And just say personnel policies and procedures. And that did come from our last meeting. And then the only other changes on page 5, it says Board of Trustees. For the library notary, it'll just say the library board rather than trustees. I think we intermingled you and the library board there. But do you guys have any other questions about that agreement or anything that we need to address? Does the library board have any comments or questions? So moving on to the facility lease agreement. So we had on the first page under term of agreement, initially it said that either party could terminate with 45 days. The library boards proposed 6 months there instead. I don't really, either way, we'll make it work.
What rationale for 6 months is that standard? Curious.
Well, if we have to move.
It just seems like from 45 days to 6 months seems a bit, I don't like to use the word drastic because it has a negative connotation, but it's obviously much different. Curious.
Well, we have to procure another space to have our books. We have to pack everything up. I mean, just physically
That's how you're looking
45
at it.
days to move would be,
Okay.
I mean, it would be an enormous feat to get it done in 45 days. So it was like 6 months, we could get a place, move. I mean, that was our thinking on that.
Thank you for clarifying.
Not to say we'll move, but
No, I understand. I do. I got you.
So then the next change is down in bullet point or number 6, maintenance and alterations. And there's do you want me to read that whole section, or I'm sure you've all seen it. So the library is or has approved and is asking that in this agreement, the village agree to pay for the roof. And then any maintenance over $2,000 that we would pay, which would increase 2% per year, that we would pay 50% of that. I do have concerns with this section, mostly when it comes to budgeting. The village, and I understand that the library budget's separate from the village, but we do a capital improvement plan in order to try to project out our big needs, our capital projects moving forward. And it would make it extremely hard to budget for the village if we don't have those anticipated needs from the library ahead of time. I'm not saying we won't help or that we don't want to, but I think that that needs to be spelled out. And I'm not talking about emergency repairs. I understand things come up, but when they know a roof, for example, when you know that that's coming down the line, it would be nice for us to have that notification and that conversation during the budget process so that we can plan for that. And then we're not just having these years with huge outliers because they have maintenance that hasn't been shared with us. And having that written into the agreement just says that at any time they can approve these maintenance or repairs, and then we've got to pay that other portion. So even if you look at something on a smaller scale, like let's say their HVAC unit breaks and they have somebody go and it's $15,000 to repair that, and now all of a sudden they're coming to us saying, hey, you need to fork over $7,500. I mean, that's an impact to our budget, because where do I have that budgeted? Where am I going to take it from? Am I taking it now from another service or fund that's got to be reduced or changed? It just doesn't give the village room to plan and make sure that we're meeting all of our other needs as well. So we had talked about this with the library board at the last meeting, and we talked about adding that it wouldn't limit their ability for appropriations. And I kind of go back to that, and again, if we can meet in the middle or do something, I'm good with that, but the library has to make a request. We can't just give them this blanket approval for, again, budget purposes. But I don't know if you guys have ideas, if the library board does, but I would strongly recommend we not approve this agreement with that language the way it's proposed right now.
Did you have the opportunity, Danielle, to speak with the library board about this agreement while it was being created from the library with the library board?
So I've been sharing because I got the kind of foundation from Claire, and I shared with the library board and had went back and forth. I did ask Bob if he felt I should attend their meeting, if it would be helpful to answer questions. He said that he thought they were good. And then I did get this after they shared it with me. So I was not at the meeting and was not part of that conversation. And then I'll kind of move on. So going to 17 insurance, the library had proposed some changes here as well to include that the library may elect to remain on village insurance to minimize expenses. We would like this to be that they shall be insured by the village to the extent that the insurance premium can be appropriated to them, will be expensed from them. So we have our overall liability. Like, it's easy when we charge property insurance, we know, okay, for this property of the library, insurance is gonna cost us $1,000, and that's what's billed to them. When it's liability, we get coverage as a whole, including the library, so it's a little bit harder to pinpoint that, but I feel that like how we do it now is fair, but it doesn't make sense for them because it is a village-owned property and they are village employees. We need to make sure that we're maintaining that liability and property coverage. And then the only other thing was just the library, again, the board for the notary. If you guys have questions, comments, again, library board, if you have the same, I would open it up to whomever.
So the only thing, the reason it's 6 maintenance and alterations, the reason that we added that is that there hasn't been a lot of village money going to repairs and maintenance in the library. You know, we spent $25,000 last year that we were gonna use for the roof on the HVAC system, or maybe a year and a half ago. So I mean, that all came out of the library budget, out of our savings account, okay? So we're just looking down the road. We've been talking about a roof for, even when Wanacott was here, that it needs to be replaced, it needs to be repaired. I think we've had a quote for 2 or 3 years, you know, to say, you know, the roof needs to be replaced. We couldn't do it back when the HVAC system went out. And I know like the parking lot, things like that, it is a village-owned property. So we're just, you know, we're willing to take on half the cost as a leasee of it, which is pretty reasonable considering we're a leasee of it, of a property. So like if you rent a house, you don't expect the renter to replace the furnace in it. You, as the owner, you would expect.
Right, but we're not charging rent either. It's been a library and will be a library.
Do you have a quote for that roof?
The last one we had was like 20,000, I think, from Bob. Bob got that from Brown and Son, but I don't, and that was a year ago. So I mean, with material costs up more, you know, we kind of like to keep it local, but we certainly will get, you know, 2 or 3 bids on that.
You're thinking 20,000 for that whole roof? Well, it's a flat roof.
It's gonna be more than that.
I mean, that's.
How much
that-
was the one out at the water
The
plant?
water plant was 105,000.
Right.
Yeah, there's no way it'll be 20,000 now.
Well, that might be repairs.
Kind of along the same line, I know with Claire, I believe that was the woman's name, that we had spent a lot of time with that one evening. What is the progress of the funding structure for the library? I know we've been talking in the past about changing the structure with the millage and things like that. Going to talk with some of the other Palmyra, Rida, the other, you know.
So everybody's been, Palmyra was on board, but you know, Palmyra has 3 different school districts that they're part of.
Right.
So, you know, they asked if we could help them. Blissfield is on board. They're getting me the paperwork to, Blissfield Township is on board. They want to pursue that right away for 3 times. We can get 3/10 of a mil right away. We're still pursuing the district library.
Okay.
But again, that takes time and money. We're consulting with our attorneys right now for
I
that.
thought that was something that we had discussed with part of our budgeting, was helping out with that financial portion of it. And I only say that because if a millage is being planned, I was under the impression that that was something that was gonna be starting to look
The
at.
half mil is not an option, according to our attorney, because it was so long ago and we don't know what the status of it was. They said if we would go forward with implementing the half mil that we got before, that it would probably be litigated seriously because it hadn't been on the books for so long, even though if it was perpetual, because we didn't pursue it and actively collect it for so long. So that would not be an option. According to our attorney, they said, don't even pursue that.
That was the impression here, okay, and I don't know what the status is with our attorneys taking a look at that, et cetera, with Claire, I mean, that kind of a thing. What about a millage, perhaps not that half mil, but your own new
Well,
millage.
we'd have to be well, we could, now, we'd have to go to the voters for that.
No, I understand, that's what I'm
Yeah.
suggesting. I only say that because there, as we all know, finances here everywhere are tight, we get all that, but it's not been budgeted for the roof. And I would concur with what Danielle is saying, the part about this, I'm not very comfortable with what's stated in here with the maintenance as well. And I'm curious, that's why I asked the question regarding the funding structure. I know that we want to be good partners, but I also know that it was my expectation that a little more was going to be done with some funding. And that's why I'm asking the question. So a little bit has been done, but I think there's more things that can be done for funding, in my limited knowledge.
And I do want to be clear that I'm not saying we don't want to help the library.
No.
I'm saying it can't just be a blanket approval. They need to, when we're going through the budget request and they're preparing their annual budget, they need to say, we're requesting, and I'm gonna make up numbers here, by the way, but they can say, we're requesting 400,000. Of that 400,000, 150 is for capital projects, which include a roof, whatever. So then we can say, okay, yeah, we're gonna make this 400 work. You guys need a roof or whatever you're gonna say, we are gonna say at that time, but then we at least know what it's for and it's not coming to us, well, oh, by the way, we did this and you guys have to pay for it. And the way that this wording is written into the agreement,
Exactly.
they would have that authority to approve a repair and then come back and say, okay, this is, or even if they do it ahead of time, okay, we're gonna do this $15,000 repair, this is your portion of that without it being in our budget process. And we cannot afford to do that. We don't have just tons of
And that's why I was
extra
asking
cash.
about what is the funding structure looking like for the future, so that we can understand that as well. It's not, certainly, Greg, I hope that's not, I'm not giving you that impression, that's not my intention, if that's how it's coming across. What I'm saying is I'm looking for the funding structure so we can see what other avenues there are, your avenues and then our avenues, so there's that approach, and that's what I'm just asking.
And I don't know what the mills, if they can go to capital expenditures or not, based on what the funding would be. So it may just go to operations, not necessarily.
And that sounds like something that has to be investigated, exactly.
Any more discussion?
So what I would like to propose or ask of council, ultimately it is up to you guys, but I'm not comfortable with either of these and I would not recommend you guys approve them. I would really like to see, because I also feel that the library going and making changes and approving it isn't really effective either, and then us coming back and disagreeing. I would really like to see us come together. And I don't know how the library board, if they want to or would be willing to maybe have a subcommittee of 1 or 2 members, the council have 1 or 2 members, Bob and myself to help facilitate as the staffing on that and see if we can't get these where we're both comfortable with them, then present them to the board at that point. Because I think the way this has been handled thus far, it's gonna be a lot of back and forth publicly, and we could probably negotiate and weed some of that out in the background. So that would be my recommendation. I don't, again, know if the library board would be open to that or if that's something they would need to talk about at their meeting, but that's what I would like to ask of council is that we establish, and I don't know if 1 or 2 of you would be willing to sit on that. But I do think it would be vital to have the elected members be a part of that conversation to make sure that as staff, we're going in the direction that you guys want us to.
Is that something you're willing to pursue with Bob?
Absolutely. Whatever I can do to help facilitate and move these
I
forward.
think we should do that. We're not that far apart. Right. It's just these few issues.
Correct,
And one of them
yeah.
is illegal. So we've got a PA, public act, whatever. What's it?
Yeah, and we'll both, I mean, because Phil and Dave work for the village, the libraries retain an attorney, so we'll have to include them as well and just make sure that we're on the same page there. But I just see that being a little bit more effective than, like I said, the back and forth.
Is there anybody on council that would like to work on that library subcommittee if it is so formed?
Mike?
I'll sit in with you. Greg, does that sound like something that's doable?
We'll have a discussion at our meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be.
I mean, this is only like the third meeting that we've kind of
We need to.
went back and forth, so not to be discouraged or anything, because I think we're making good strides
Yeah.
forward, but.
I
Yeah,
think
these are
few
things that
issues-
could be settled outside the kind of meeting.
Okay. Moving forward, new business. Approve PZ 220901 rezone application.
I provided a staff report for you guys with quite a bit of information. The applicants are here as well, for Becky's Kitchen, but the planning commission did review this at their November 21st meeting. We are asking that council approve the rezone application. It's currently zoned residential. They would like to change that to commercial so that they can have some office space and then use the kitchen space to do some of their baking and different things. Everything will be sold at the restaurant, so it's really just going to be the owners or employees at the home location, and then all of the public will still go through the restaurant. Planning commission did recommend approval. It aligns with our master plan, our ordinances, so I don't have any concerns. But I don't know if either of you applicants have anything to say? Okay.
Which one is Brian Copeland?
Nobody will be living there.
What kind of renovations do you have to do to make that a bakery in there?
Basically, we're just gonna not have a living room. And just, I've been talking with the health department and stuff, but. Not a lot.
Make a motion to approve the rezone application as recommended by the planning commission. Support. Moved and supported. Lisa, you want to call roll?
Actually, I got real quick. Is there any kind of land buffer that is supposed to be between the R2 and the C3, then going from the next residence to where it becomes commercial? Is it some sort of land buffer, landscape buffer, visual buffer?
I can't imagine. That means it's fairly tight to their neighbors.
Mhm.
You know, very similar
So I
tight
think-
situation.
Yeah, I think C3 does to residential, and I know industrial does.
I just want them to be clear, if we're going through that rezoning, we need to make sure that they're gonna meet all of those requirements, and it's not to discourage anything. I don't wanna be here down the line arguing on something that needs to be said.
Yeah, no, you're good. Don't be there with me.
Brian, is there a fence along the south side of the property? Along that driveway?
I don't believe there
No,
is.
there's not.
If there is, I believe there's a privacy fence, but it's just in the backyard of the property and then out front, it's open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty tight, lot line there from the garage to the next whole garage. I just want to make sure that we're meeting the requirements in the zoning to pull that off. Not that the usage or the look outside is going to look much different, but again, let's just be fair across the board.
So this does say. A strip of land, a minimum 15 feet located between the residential use and the conflicting land use.
may not get that with a side yard setback.
Yeah, so it's kind of confusing because it says upon any improvement, including structural or use expansion. With the zoning classification of C1, C2, C3, industrial or ORI. Shall use an obscuring wall shall be constructed to create a visual screen along the property, and then it talks about parking lots. Have a parking lot.
And does that require the minimum size for amount of cars, whatnot? For a parking area, I mean, does it?
Because it's not open to the public, so it's not, they don't have to have the parking lot tied to that. If they were having public go in, then they would have to meet the off-street parking requirements.
Okay.
So.
And I know our variant, our ordinances are somewhat vague.
Yeah, so I know, because it gets really weird so it says the landscape buffer shall be constructed as follows. A strip of land, minimum of 15 feet, one tree for each 30 feet or fraction thereof located between. It says like 5 different things, so I think it's one
There's
of
options,
these,
yes.
is what I think it's saying. So the 15 feet, the tree, a hedge or other plant material barrier, wall, berm, or any combination, grass, ground covering, gravel, or wood chips. And then the landscape buffer shall be planted in a manner to provide. So it's opaque, 80%. And that's all it says. So I think, what do you guys have on the side there right now?
There's a garage, there's a strip of land, and then there's another strip of land, and then it goes into the neighbor's attached
I
garage.
mean, if you read that, it says they could put wood chips or gravel or grass there, and that's the buffer.
There already is a retaining wall.
This is why we need.
So there's gotta be 15 feet between their house.
Well, that's one of the options. That's,
Right,
so then the other ones don't have a footage unless it's the 30 lineal feet for the trees.
but it's 15 feet from their property to the next property, 15 feet wide. And it can be grass.
Yeah, it says grass, ground cover, gravel, wood chips, hedge or other plant material barrier.
I'm just looking at it on the satellite. Just trying to determine if. It's hard to tell if it's 15 feet, but.
It's also existing though. I mean, you're probably getting a larger buffer with that house being commercial than you are with the buffer from the restaurant to the home right now. So I think there is a partial fence on that side, I believe. And then it goes into the driveway.
I guess I would just want to be cognizant with the neighbors, and if there's an issue there, we need to, again, fulfill the requirements of the ordinance, and if there's an issue down the line, then that buffer would need to be created.
You guys can conditionally approve it or, and say too that you approve it, but you would like to see them put a fence or something like that up too. I don't know. I would give them some time because of the cost of doing something like that, but I don't know If that's an option, if you guys are concerned about
We
it.
we just have to be fair across the board, because if we're in the same situation somewhere else and the neighbors hate the idea of being rezoned, then we have to provide that buffer, we have to provide them that coverage, whether it's arborvitae or fence or whatever. So again, we just need to be fair across the board. We can't say, we're gonna not do it for you and then have to do it for the next person. That's my only concern.
Unless the ordinance was structured differently. I mean, you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
if it's revisited and it's changed. Maybe that could be what it's based upon. I don't know if that's appropriate, saying that we're not gonna be looking at that ordinance anytime soon.
Well, I've started working on the ordinances.
Yes.
We have so many
That are prior to this.
to be amended. It's gonna be a long process. Yeah. I guess we notified everyone within 300 feet. Nobody had concerns. They're not increasing the impacts to the road, the infrastructure there at all. You're not gonna see huge delivery trucks pulling in and out of there. All of those will still go to the restaurant. So I think the impact will be very minimal. I don't know that the residents in that area would see a significant change at all. I think if there was gonna be changes to traffic flows, or if they were going to have those delivery trucks there, then there needs to be some sort of buffer, but I think since there's not gonna be the change, and I'm not wrong in that, right?
No,
There's
you're right.
no,
There's no.
okay. I'm like, correct me
Well,
if I say
no,
anything
because
wrong.
I was just gonna say, because it was already being used for the restaurant.
The garage, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only difference is they were living there at the same time, and
Right.
they will not have any residents there.
I'm looking for a motion
We have one.
as recommended or.
We have a motion and a second.
Motion and roll call.
Oh, we do? Oh, yeah, Jerry made a motion, Tim made second. Any other discussion? All right, Lisa. Oh,
Garrett,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
James,
yes, motion passes. Moving on, appoint village council president pro tem.
Move the nomination of Mike Gunter as the president pro tempore.
I'll support that.
The motion's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
James,
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you, Mike, and thank you, Glenn, for the past 2 years. Moving on, approved 1 month water shut off suspension.
We have this item actually came before the council last year, and we really have a repeat of the same schedule. So the way the holidays fall, staff will be off Friday, Monday, we'll be here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then off Friday and Monday. It makes it very difficult for staff to get this done, but more importantly, I do not, and none of us want to shut residents off for extended periods of time or over the holidays. So I would like to postpone or suspend shut-offs for the month of December. I do want to be very clear for our residents, if they fail to pay, they can still get the penalty. They just wouldn't be shut off that month. So they'll need to make sure that they get that bill caught up or paid or whatever they need to do before the January shut-off deadline. But I would like to entertain, again, just the 1 month delay or suspension.
I'll make the motion to move to suspend water shutoffs for 1 month in December of 2022.
I'll support.
Moved and supported. Lisa, go ahead with the roll.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
James,
Yes, the motion passes. Line number 4, review legal services. Danielle.
I had emailed council on a couple different occasions about the village attorney evaluation. I did receive a little bit of feedback, but not much. This was initially gonna be on the first meeting in November, but both Phil and Dave wanted to be present. So we did push it out. I had emailed you guys and I included in the packet a performance review rating sheet that I've shared with both of them as well. That came right from the ICMA's website. They had the example. There were a couple small things that did not apply to our community, so I removed those, sent it to you guys. If you're good with it, it's completely up to you how you want to do this, but I was thinking we could just go through and you guys can rate them together. I would be more than happy to provide feedback. Phil and Dave are here to answer any questions that you guys may have. And just kind of go through it, but it's really up to you guys, however you see fit to do the evaluation. The attorneys do report to you directly. If you have questions, let me know for Phil and Dave.
I've written some comments down here. I'd like to ask you, council, in regards to the forensic audit, it seems like we're not getting much information. And I'd like to have an explanation on that.
As far as the sum and substance of the forensic audit, I guess I'm not exactly sure.
Yes, what is the status where are we at from a village standpoint?
I believe I sent out a couple emails directly to all of you. And the emails that I sent, the last two emails, one I sent out about a month ago and one I sent out maybe 6 weeks ago, and then about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And those were the latest, that was the latest status of the matter. And nothing has changed since those emails. So I believe that was the purpose of those emails, was just to keep council abreast of where things stood there. Nothing is going to happen, I believe, until January or February now. So it's just all, you know, the different proceedings have just been adjourned, and that's all we really know at this point.
I've noticed in past council meetings that when our legal counsel is seated to our right, it appeared as though legal counsel was directing the administrator on what to say back to council. I question the ethics of that, since council has hired you on and not the administrator. Do you have anything to say to that?
Without remembering any specific instances, whenever either one of us has sat over there in that chair, we have responded to questions. If Danielle asks us about different questions, then we will give our opinion to her to assist her in giving her, to allow her to answer council's questions. But certainly Danielle is an exceptionally competent village manager, and you know, she certainly doesn't need us to hold her hand. But we are readily available and have been readily available both during council meetings and outside of council meetings to provide whatever assistance we can. So if those gave the impression of direction, or that Danielle was in some way being directed by whoever was sitting in that chair, it was certainly to give assistance as requested, but nothing more.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess I would just add to that, I mean, I can tell you that neither of them have ever told me what to say to you guys or anything like that. I'm not sure exactly, but I have asked them questions that they've answered, or vice versa. I know that there's been a time, and I don't remember what it was for, where Phil and I were both asking each other questions back and forth about a topic you were discussing, but it wasn't giving me direction to do one thing or another.
Okay, thank you.
So are you suggesting, and Danielle, I'm not quite sure I'm understanding that you want us you're gonna provide us paperwork to do this and we will evaluate on our own, or you're saying?
Ultimately, it's up to you guys. I mean, what I'm saying is this is a guideline. If you guys want to use this format, if you have questions for me or for Chief, or again, Phil or Dave, then we're here to answer them, but they do report to you. So how you guys choose to do this is up to you.
Then I will simply ask you on, as you deal with both gentlemen, obviously more regularly than what we would and do. Your impression as you go through the representation and consultation, I mean, there are obviously, you know, legal consultation A through G, all of these things. Legal representation, staff work, cost, fiscal accountability and control, responsiveness, timeliness. I guess when I look at this from my time on council, that responsiveness and timeliness certainly was of nature that was lacking previously, and I'm curious as to how you feel about that right now.
I get a response from them pretty quickly usually. I've also called both of them outside of normal working hours, or on their vacations or my, either one really, and they've been pretty available. I mean, I will say in all fairness that there's been times that I feel like I should be the only person that they're helping. Realistically, I know that that's not true, as they serve many other clients. But I do think that they have, in my time working with them, been pretty responsive and gotten back to me in a fair amount of time.
Communications as well, communicate effectively, answers are provided in a timely and understandable manner, maintain confidentiality.
Yes, I do sometimes find it easier to talk to them on the phone. When I get the email, it can sometimes feel a little bit confusing and jumbled, but I'm also not an attorney, so I think that they're sharing it in a way that makes sense to them, and it sometimes does not to me. But whenever, if that's the case, I call them, they're really good about explaining it and talking about it in person or on the phone. So yeah, I don't have any issues there.
Cost, fiscal accountability and control, examples of does the village attorney display the ability and knowledge to research issues in a minimum amount of time? Obviously nothing is being grossly exaggerated with our billing and things of that nature. You feel that the activities are within our budgetary goals and limits?
Yeah, that one is hard for me to gauge. Just because I do think when they're working within the budget, I don't see any huge like outliers or anything that I'm overly concerned with when we get their bills, and I do review those in detail. There's nothing that sticks out, but I would kind of defer to them. I mean, I don't know, our topics range so much that sometimes that research may be 5 minutes and sometimes it may be 5 hours, so it's hard to gauge that. But again, I don't see anything that stands out.
So I've gone through this performance review, and I'll be honest, I think we're at a disadvantage because we don't work with them like you and Chief Greenleaf do. My preference, I guess, if we want to do this now, we can, but I would heavily lean on both of your input as to the relationship, only because, again, we see them here bi-weekly, and then that's been reduced. So it's only through the two of you that, if you know, they work for us, but they work in relation in concert with the two of you. So I
what is the status of the police department with the attorneys?
I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, how are things going with the work that our attorneys are doing within the police department? How are your feelings about that, the work that's being done?
The warrants we are, the cases we're sending, we're getting the warrants back.
Are you, as the police department, are you comfortable with the representation that we are receiving?
It's professional, it's adequate. That's about all I can say.
I like, I'm sorry.
I just thank you.
I like James' idea of having administrator and chief of police fill this out. and bring it to council.
I do not like that idea.
Well, yeah, that, I didn't want to have them, I
That's
just
not
wanted to
quite
go
the same.
through it with them and basically have
I
discussions
don't
with them.
mind providing you feedback. I also would encourage Chief to provide feedback, both of us. I don't think it's fair for Chief or I to do this evaluation because they don't report to us and we need to maintain a good working relationship with them. And a working coworker relationship is different than a supervisor-employee relationship.
There's a
but
lot
again-
of things on this list, though, that I would need your input for.
And I'm not saying we won't provide input, I
Right.
just
For me
don't
to answer,
think we should be
appropriately.
scoring the
Because I'm not around the
evaluation.
But I think you are, in my point of view, you are providing feedback right now. And obviously, I think we talked about the percentages before that, what is it, 88% of the time of the time is with the village versus the police department. I remember having that dialogue before. So if you look at the weightiness of it, of the work that is done, it's primarily with you, Danielle, and I do think you are providing feedback right now. That's how I look at it.
All right, does anybody object to going through it right now? Mike, Eric, any objections? Jerry, Brad, any objections? All right, let's run through it. Legal consultation. Has legal advice provided by the village attorney proven to be accurate and technically correct?
You looking for an answer from each of us?
Well, no, I obviously not from you. I've not
This
received
is-
any.
This is kind of asking Danielle to give her comments, and that's kind of what she said she did not want to do, and we're doing it in a public format.
Right.
Well, I'll provide comments. I'm not going to score them.
Okay.
I think
Go ahead.
that's your, I don't want you guys to, I'm not saying
You're
I
not doing the
won't
1 to
provide
5 kind of thing.
feedback.
can we do this? Is it acceptable for us to do this at our committee of the whole meeting and turn these in?
I would much rather do that and have a tallied score.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can, as long as you're not taking any
No, we'll turn them
action.
into you, you can
Any
tally the
action will
numbers.
have to be at the public.
We bring them back at
meeting.
our next meeting. I think that's the way to do it, if we want to have discussion about it and go over.
We should have examples and detail to provide both
Yes.
Danielle and our lawyers I guess, the reasoning behind that. I think that's fair, because we can sit here all night and talk about the past 2 years. And I certainly don't want to do that, but giving examples and having us each, again, it's much like Danielle's evaluation. We can kind of score it and see where we're at and see how we feel as a board. And then that'll help focus. Obviously, we have a new board as well. So, it's kind of a weird time to do it anyway. Eric's obviously been sitting in and, the rest of us pretty much have been partaking, the conversation and been knowledgeable of what's been going on the past 2 years. But again, I think that's the better way to do it. Let's sit down as a board, see where the shortfalls are, where we're happy with them, and then take the next direction.
When's our next meeting of the whole? Is that January?
Yeah, I was not planning to have one in December because of the holidays, and we already have just the one meeting scheduled that month. So it would be January 16th.
So we're comfortable pushing it out 6 weeks?
Just 'cause, there's things we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about, a lot of the issues Gwen had brought up about the past and the timeliness of getting things done and whatnot. We're still sitting on this Generac issue, for example, and that's kind of pie in the face to all of us. So, there's questions, I guess, that, I would more want in detail, with Chief. Are they working with Chief on warrants? Are they, working with the courts? Are we just, letting people go? Are we clean without Chief knowing? I don't know any of that stuff. There's things that we need to know, I guess, from both the administrator and the police representation on how are they fulfilling their duties, again, for the things that we don't see day to day.
Chief, is that a date you can be available?
Yeah, as far as those issues, we're not having any issues like that.
Okay.
So,
And
That's why I'm not quite sure why we're I'm not quite sure why we're waiting. honest answer, because it seems to me is that we've just stated that Danielle is the person that works with them the majority of the time. James, you just stated that. And that she is giving her comments, or just her regarding the police department. So I'm not sure why we're waiting, because honestly, Jerry, you commented on this as well, if I understand correctly. This is stuff I don't know. I don't know the answers to some of these questions. I don't know. You know, she is gonna know. I'm not gonna know these answers, so I don't know if putting it off is gonna really do anything. Just my opinion. If that's what council determines, certainly I'll roll with that, but I'm not quite sure why we are doing that when I'm hearing from Mr. Greenleaf that there's no issues, and I'm hearing from Ms. Gross that there's no issues. I don't know. Is there anything the attorneys may like to say at this time? I don't know if that's appropriate to do or not, James. Yes.
No, let's come to a conclusion here. We either deal with this tonight or we make a decision, do it in a meeting of the whole. I think this is a large enough topic to be handled in the meeting of the whole. Bring it back, make a motion on the scoring. That's just my input. I understand, and I certainly don't disagree with what you're saying, but I just don't think we have the time to deal with it tonight. It's 25 discussion items. I just don't think we have the time.
And maybe it is, I mean, with my evaluation, I had asked you guys at my 6 month to establish an evaluation, so I would know what you were gonna be looking for, so that I would know where I needed to improve or what I needed to focus on. The attorneys have seen this because I've shared it with them. So maybe coming back to it and doing the combined scoring, I could do, or would be more than happy if you guys want to do a similar Excel sheet where it's unanimously list trustee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with your scores and all of the comments provided, and we could treat it similar to mine and they could be present for that. I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be the committee of the whole. You guys did mine privately by yourselves, and then one of you tallied the scores. So I wasn't tallying my own, but I could tally for the attorneys. I don't know if that would help maybe make this a little bit easier and a more comfortable process for everybody.
You need a motion, or we can just agree and let it die?
Yeah, I'm good. We don't need a motion. If you all agree to give me that direction, or a majority of you, then that's how we'll proceed. And I'll just send this out individually. We'll go from there.
Again, though, without discussion, without, I don't know if our scoring is gonna be an accurate representation of the questions that are being asked. Only because we don't have that day-to-day business interactions.
I would encourage you to talk to Chief or I meet with most of you on a weekly basis. I know Chief would make himself available for you guys as well. I mean, when you're doing my evaluation, sorry, hopefully, I know you will. When you're doing my evaluation, I hope you're getting feedback from the employees that work with me every day as well. So we're not opposed to providing that if that'll help you guys in your scoring.
So you're good with that, us asking you some of these questions?
Absolutely, yes, I have no problem with that. Like I said, my only thing is I don't want to do the actual scoring. I will provide or answer any questions or provide information, whatever you guys have for me.
Okay, all right. So let's put it on the schedule for January 16th, open or meeting of the whole. We'll finalize our numbers and questions then, any discussion, and then we'll come back with a recommended motion.
I think that's the time to talk about, the amount of time that they're here. We talked about whether we want them at every meeting, well, what the actual costs are compared to previous years and how much we're spending for the legal representation. There's a lot of things that I would like to ask questions to, have pertinent information and data of, to say, this is a valid reason to say good, bad, ugly on where we're at with them. Again, it's nothing against our attorneys at all. It's just more of a better, process to make it happen.
All right, let's dedicate that meeting to legal representation. Moving on, number 5, resolution budget amendment number 3 for trust funds.
Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the resolution authorizing the budget amendment as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any other discussion? No, none from Danielle. Go ahead, Lisa.
Tim,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
James,
Yes, that motion passes. Number 6.
That is one thing I would like to say thank you to Phil and for both working on. I mean, those are something that we
Oh,
wanted to pull off for the past 2 years and
Absolutely.
yeah, so thanks for doing that.
We're to flat on that one, gentlemen.
Yeah, make sure that goes on our.
Very good.
Mike, that's very true. That's been for a number of years. And that is a big positive for the village.
Just briefly, if no one knows what that is, there's a number of trust funds that have been set up that we've had to maintain over the years. That money is now going to be doled out to the appropriate services, clubs, committees to be spent. So those are wonderful gifts and now to be fully exercised. All right, moving on, board appointment, DDA Main Street Board Member.
Move council appointment for Wolf as recommended by the DDA Main Street Board to the DDA Main Street Board Committee. With the term ending June 30th, 2024.
I'll support.
Moved and supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Lisa, please call the roll.
Gwen,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes, the motion passes. I'd like to publicly thank April Wolf for stepping up, being part of the DDA. Number 7, approve Village Hall schedule change.
I am asking you to consider a temporary schedule change for the village office. This is something that staff and myself have been talking about really probably since I started or shortly after. We would like to, and I do want to just do this temporary to see how it goes. Implementing a schedule change like this can sometimes pose challenges or things that maybe we're not thinking of. But I would like to have the office be open Monday through Thursday from 8 to 6 p.m. A couple different reasons we'd like to do this. It would be more available for the public. We would actually be open an hour earlier and later so that people who work 9 to 5 could get here to applications, answer questions, whatever their needs are, and actually be able to talk to somebody. The other part is productivity. Our staff works a lot of time already, and it would make sense to do longer days instead of trying to break it up and get more done within that time frame. I will be honest with you guys, if this changes, I'll probably still be in the office on Fridays, but it would give me some time or any staff in here to actually focus on some different projects and things that we need to do so that when we're open to the public those other days, our priority and our focus can be the public and not trying to juggle kind of the behind the scenes and the paperwork things. I'm proposing that we would start this after the new year and we would run it through April and do a review to see how things are going. If it is working out, if it's not, get some feedback from our residents to see if they have a preference either way, and then make a decision if we want to make a permanent change or go back to the schedule we're on now. Otherwise, I would answer questions that you have.
So the only thing I'll say is, I have read about this movement having a lot of success. The one question I have is how would we grade it? How would we score it? How would we know it's working better than 9 to 5? So if you can come up with some sort of scorecard, excuse me, I'd be happy to support this. But that would be my only input.
Are there other municipalities that do this? You know, have they been successful with it or?
Yes.
Is it the same deal, meaning the Fridays were off, or was it another day that was off, Daniel?
I think it could be another day. The municipalities that I specifically know of do Fridays off.
And when it states that for the departments do not want to switch, you were talking just strictly here in the office.
Correct, it would be an office change. So obviously, police department cannot make the change. The treatment plants, they do work, they don't work a full schedule on the weekends and holidays, but they do still have to, well, wastewater doesn't, but they still have to go do their rounds and checks. Water plant, they work to reduce, so it's a little bit harder for them. We talked about DPW, but they did not want to make the change. They felt like their schedule was good, so it is just for the office. Again, the big thing is just being more available for our residents, and when we are open to the public, being able to prioritize them and work on that, and because we're juggling a lot of things, and I know it may not seem like that if you come in or stop by, because you kind of see just the surface of the things that we're touching, but
I was just gonna ask you how you think it will affect your work-life balance, being
Well, it
open
would
later.
be amazing for work-life balance. I mean, that part is, it definitely would help with that. Because again, like, I'll use myself as an example, just because I don't want to speak for the other employees. If we work Monday through Thursday, I will probably either a couple things. I'll come into the office and I'll work a half day on Friday and then go spend the afternoon with my kids and my family. Or I'll work from home on Friday and maybe not come into the office, but get some things done from there. And that way, when my kids get out of school, I can actually be with them. I'm gonna say all of the employees put in 60 to 70 hours a week at the office here, which is Laura, myself, Lisa, and Brandon. The exception to that would be Stacy, because she is salary. So we have to watch that and make sure that she's not going into overtime a lot. She's not salary, thank you. So the rest of us, though, I mean, we work a ton and not complaining about that. We want Blissfield to be successful, but it would be nice for my kids to recognize who I am still as well.
My only concern is there's some nights I go by here and I see office lights on, and I know you guys are working late. So if you're closing at 6, I'd hate to drive by here and see office lights on at 8 or 9 o'clock, and you guys still working.
Which, yeah, and again, we're probably still gonna be working. I mean, but that's the other thing too, if we work till 6, like from right now, I'm here, I don't leave from 5 to 7 when I have meetings.
Right.
Which I have minimum 5 meetings a month that I attend after work, so then if I'm staying open and helping customers at that time, because it's not long enough that, I mean, I can get a couple things done, but yeah, I get more done if I come in early in the morning before 9 than I will from 9 to 5.
When in April do you want to have this reviewed?
I would like to do the second meeting in April.
Okay.
Council meeting. And my reasoning for that is it gets us through a couple holidays to see how that works. It gets us through a couple months of seeing what our impacts are on the residents. And then it gives us the ability to get some feedback from the residents. Because ultimately, if they come back and say, this is terrible, we don't want you guys to do that, then I think that's the direction we go.
I'm with James though, 100%. I would like to see some sort of data or scorecard or something we can use to measure how it's working versus just a yay or a nay.
Just some quantifiers.
Yeah.
How many people come in after 5? How many people come in before 9? Phone calls, just small things, just so we know. But
I personally don't like it. I think I am obviously aware that there's an issue of the amount of workload that you all have. I think we all are. I think people like to be able to have access to the office, but since we moved down here, we know the foot traffic has exponentially increased. And why that is, I'm not sure, but I just feel like a day off doesn't give the opportunity of the residents and citizens to come and do their business, what they need to try to get done. you go down to the township, you know, you think, oh, I wanna go pay this or go ask a question, whatever, if you hit it by noon, you know what a pain in the butt that is to not be able to have that access. If it's a workload issue, again, I get that we have dedicated employees and they're staying late, whatnot. I would hate to see them work until 7 o'clock Monday through Thursday and then being here on Friday. We don't pay them the best as is. We pay what we can afford. But again, I don't want to burn out our staff on seeing coming on the day off either. That I don't think we should expect that of them.
So let's
you know,
put
it
this-
boils down to workload. We talked about in the past of hiring, you know, a part-time position to help run the front desk. And I get that that again costs money and whatnot. But if they need more time, they being Danielle, Brandon, and Lisa to do the work that they need to be focused on, then maybe that's something that we should address. If you're doing too much of the daily business operations, collecting water payments, doing that sort of stuff, that shouldn't take away from what you're here to do. Much like opening the pool, things like that, that's beyond your realm, that you've got more important things, more important issues for that.
Could we put out a 2-week survey to the citizens?
Yeah, we can do whatever.
I feel better about the citizens having something to say about it.
Can I say something?
Not at this time.
No?
No, but to your point, Mike, we're trying to attract and retain the best people. This is a good work-life balance opportunity. Again, we're open the same amount of hours. We're actually opening extended hours.
If you want to do that, you can have one staff member come in at 8, and you can have another staff member stay till 5. There's other ways to solve that. You still have it be open.
Temporary trial, 3 months. Any other discussion? I'm looking for a motion.
Can we go, excuse me,
Go
can
ahead.
we revisit what Tim was suggesting? How would you go about that, Tim? Do you have a thought?
Maybe put a survey on the village website or just email it out and give all the citizens 2 weeks to give feedback. Could we have it back in time for our first meeting in December? Well, the only meeting, but was there enough time in there, or just between now and that meeting, the survey, and then we bring this back on that meeting night and make a decision?
I mean, if I got it out tomorrow, that would be just under 2 weeks. I would not want to expect the citizens to get it back that quickly. I think if you want to do a survey, then you bring this back the first meeting in January.
This is a good opportunity for a trial run. It's 3 months. If it's not working out, it's not working out. We're gonna hear from citizens, residents right away.
I was curious what the,
I mean, that's it. Forget about a 2-week,
Yeah, because I'm proposing to start this January 9th. And I'm proposing to bring it back, and we can change this date. I was saying the second meeting in April, which is April 24th. We can bring it back March 27th. I mean, I don't, again, I that's what I'm asking for. I'm trying to be honest and say, implementing this can be challenging, but I would like to be more available for our residents, and I would like to have that work-life balance. And I agree with what you're saying, Mike, but right now I don't get any days off, or I can get a half day on Friday, even if I do come in on my day off. Like, to me, that is better than working what the hours I work now. I mean, there's times where I work all week from 8 to 8, and then I'll work Saturday and Sunday from home to catch up on things. And again, not complaining about that. I love what I do, but it would be nice to be able to have that time that I can say, okay, Friday, I feel like I've actually got some things done and caught up a little bit. I'm gonna go spend the afternoon with my kids who get off at 3. And I will be very honest with you guys.
should have the
If this,
flexibility to do that now, though, with your position that you're in. I mean, when we hired you, we didn't expect you to say, you're gonna be here 40 hours, Monday through Friday. We get that there's give and take. We get that you sit through these meetings, you sit through many other meetings at night, whatnot. Again, are you getting your job done? Are you doing what we hired you to do? But also, again, you have that flexibility to say, okay, I can come and go as needed. Again, I don't want you out of the office, extended period of time, but again, what's fair to get the representation that we need you for the taxpayers, but also give you some freedom to, yes, have a personal life.
Can we go back to the recommended motion with your review in April? Can we come down to a specific date on that? What you're asking for? I'm with James with the quantifiers as well. I hear what Tim is saying with the survey, although I think you're right. We're gonna hear from the residents. We'll hear good or bad. And I think the quantifiers would be very helpful. I don't know exactly what they can be, but I do think some of the examples given, how many people come in before 8, how many people, come in after 5. I'm talking like you say, 3 months. If the world.
Yeah, and to Mike's point, that scorecard might prove that we need an additional person in the office. That part-time person that has been spoken, talked about, so. Developing a scorecard might lead us to other conclusions, but I think it's a good place to start.
I'll make a motion to move to approve the village hall office hours from Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on a trial period with a review with quantifiers in April of 2023.
I'll support this.
Moved and supported. Any other discussion? No. Lisa, call the roll.
Harry?
Yes.
Tim,
No.
Mike,
No,
Gwen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
James,
Yes, that motion passes. Number 8, approve fee.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did it pass?
Yes.
It was Mike and Tim voting no?
Correct.
Okay, I apologize, thank you.
No, that was good discussion. Number 8, approve fee waiver for Blissfield Community Schools.
Danielle, I had emailed you regarding the situation, and I know you got back with us. Can you enlighten again what you had stated in the email? What the status is of this situation?
Yes, so my understanding is the school processes because their board approves their bills similar to council, that they process or approve their bills once a month, and the water bills were not included in that approval, so then they waited till the next month, which then in turn made the payment late. So they accrued penalties on those bills, and they are requesting council to waive just the penalty portion of the bill. And then I do want to let you guys know that as of today, they did pay their full October, November bills and the penalties. So if council chooses to waive the penalties, it would be a credit to their bills. And I broke down, because they have several different accounts in the agenda, the specific amounts for each account.
And the rationale is essentially because of the timing of the meeting with the billing cycle.
Correct.
Because this has happened before with the billing cycle, I believe.
Did it happen about this time last year?
When I think it was my first or second month of being employed by the village, there was, and I don't know all the details. I actually, it might have been my first meeting that they had requested it. You guys did approve it at that time. I will tell you too that I'm trying to remember what month it was for sure. It was September. There was an issue where postage, we had some delayed payments, and staff did take care of that because that was not the air of the school or us. But with this being outside of something that we did, it would have to be approved by you guys.
Thank you for clarifying. Please.
Yeah, this is essentially penalizing ourselves. It's the same tax base.
I will make a motion to have a fee waiver for Blissfield Community Schools in the amount of $796.15. Would that be the amount, correct?
Support. Oh, Mike got it.
Moved and supported. Lisa, call the roll, please.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes, the motion passes. Number 9, approve 2023 employee health insurance.
Move council approved health insurance renewal, Blue Cross Blue Shield HRA plan, and add vision insurance through IMED. for employees. Authorize the village administrator to execute all documents related to the renewal of those benefits.
Support. Motion's been moved and supported. Lisa, go ahead.
Gwen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes, the motion passes. Number 10, approve wastewater treatment plant upgrade payment. Randy's in here tonight. If anybody has any discussion or questions.
I believe Denise is on Zoom as well.
I'll move council approved collectors, or sorry, contractors payment about number 20 in the amount of $96,522.41 in connection with the village of Blissfield wastewater treatment plant project upgrade, and authorize the village administrator to execute all documents related to this payment.
I'll support.
Moved and supported. Do you have any other discussion? Lisa, call the roll, please.
Aaron,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes, that motion passes. Number 11, approve change order for wastewater treatment plant number 19. Randy, is this the 19th change? Really? All right. How's it going up? Let's go.
How close?
93 to 95%.
I'm gonna say it says, yeah.
Just explain them, Brandy, real quick. Obviously, the stairs. Makes sense, but
I don't even know if the stairs are actually included. Okay,
Yeah.
there wasn't a specific, it was in the actual change order, but there wasn't a specific.
Amount or.
Well, it's listed in one spot, but we've got everything else. There's an actual specific change order for.
Oh, is it missing the bulletin?
Yeah. But the stairs, that's so I can actually get to my clarifier.
So the stairs were included in the blueprints. It's kind of weird. So you see, when you look at the plans for the plant, you see sections at a time. So in a couple pages of the plan, it shows that stairs are coming off of the clarifier, but then there's no section detail showing how tall the stairs are or how the stairs are to be constructed. So it references them, but when the contractor bids on plans, they're gonna go look at the specific detail to each of the different components of the build. So when it's missing the stairs, that was not included in their quote.
Randy, can you tell me about the emergency bypass and the plug valve?
So the bypass was, we had 2 rise pumps. Months before this, one of them had ran its course. There was no fixing it, and you couldn't find the part needed to fix it. So this happened, I don't know, 4 months ago. Same thing happened to this one. At that point, the only option was to temporarily put one of our new res pumps on and run until they were doing their bypass stuff. So this is just the cost of them doing that. The other is not quite how it's shown. Did they ever send the revised one?
No, I did not get a
So-
revised one.
No, they did not send it in.
We had discussed how it's shown now before. And then as this was actually requested, instead of relocating valves, we were just gonna deal with the way that it was and add the two in. So all that would be done is the purchase of the two valves and installing those. There would be no relocating of anything. So we would essentially just have to word this in a way of purchasing the valves and time and materials for the installation of them.
Denise, what's the cost of the 2 new valves?
Together would be almost $6,300, $6,292. So it was the 5,400 you saw, and then their markup that they're allowed to mark it up.
And that's no labor?
Correct. That is no labor. That is just for the material.
So what would the change order be with that material and no labor and no adding the 2 new ones? Do you know the total?
Without labor, it would be the 6,300 and then time and materials. I mean, it won't be as much. They had like 24 hours of labor in there to do all 4 of them. With not relocating, I think the relocating would take more time than just installing the new. But Giovanni did not get that back to me.
What I would propose to council, a couple different options. One, our preference would be that you guys approve this change order. I'll have to do the math on the total financial impact. But what we would do is we would approve the purchase of the 2 new valves for the material so that we can get those ordered and we don't see any delays in getting those 2 new valves in. And then we time and material the labor on it, because what we essentially have asked LaSalle to do is remove the labor to reroute the 2 valves. We do not need to so that it's 4 valves total. The 2 existing valves would go where the plans identify, which is not increased labor, which is what they proposed. And then it would just be labor for the 2 additional installs. So
Yes,
what would the total change order that we approved be? Do you know, Denise?
It was 17,000 originally. So it'd be right now without labor, it'd be a difference of $10,707 from what you have there, the 45,000. So it'd be like 35,000 or 34,000. And then the labor to install the 2 new valves.
So that would leave us about $100,000 for changes and for the rest of the project.
Correct, yes. Yeah, so, and we can do the math here. Gotta get a calculator, I apologize. So I would ask that you guys approve the change order in the amount of $34,601.30. And then we would time and material the labor for the 2 new valves only. So it would be whatever their actual time or labor is on that is what we would pay them.
Okay, and then on the stairs, since we don't have the cost breakdown, right, Randy here? I'm not seeing.
It shows it's like 7.
The stairs were $14,330.
Does that include like all this additional time and, for equipment rental and all that other garbage supervisor and all that stuff? I mean, if they miss that in the bid specs, if you miss a roof, you obviously need a roof on a building. I get things get overlooked, but I don't want them again upcharging us for 1 day of this crane, being on site when that's already on site. Those sort of add-ons that they like to throw on, for these additional change orders.
No, once we approve this, that's the price that they're doing it for.
Well, that's why I wanna see it broken down, like, you know, I mean.
On one of the sheets, it shows
What page is
specifically.
that?
So that would come out of that roughly 100 grand left we have for changes.
Well, that's included in the 45 that
Oh,
was
okay.
presented initially.
14.
So, I don't know what
There-
page it is on your packet, but it's at the top left, it'll say EJCDC. And then at the top right, it'll be change order number 19. It breaks the cost of each specific item in this change order and what it is. I guess if you're looking for a more detailed, like itemized breakdown of each individual one. no.
Yeah, and this was mostly the cost of the stairs. The actual cost of the material was $11,700. So, and there's no additional, they have no equipment rental or anything on the breakdown. It literally was the cost of the stairs and then for them to put it in.
Starts at page 52, I think, Mike.
Is there a concern about the amount of money we have left? I know you have this 93 to 95% complete, but we're now at change order number 19. What's left?
Yes, I have concerns. I don't know if you're asking me specifically or someone else.
You or Randy?
So I will say that the number of change orders doesn't really necessarily concern me because this is a huge project.
Sure.
And I mean, when you look at the plans, they're this thick and they're huge paper. I mean, there's so much to them that when you're designing a project of this scale, there's gonna be things that until you're physically on site, you don't see. There is just so much reviewing, even having 20 different people looking at those things are gonna be overlooked and missed. So I do think that we should approve these with the changed amount that I recommended with you guys, or to you guys. Overall, I have concerns about the budget, and a big portion of my concern isn't so much with the change orders, but it's the change orders that have been denied, which at this point are about $963,000. So those are the ones that concern me because we do not have, as you can see, $963,000. So I think that we have been, as staff and the engineers, very mindful and cognizant of bringing things to you guys that are truly needed and are being recommended by us. The contractor has requested to bring those rejected change orders forward to you guys for review, but my recommendation on those will not change and has not the entire time. Nor do I think Pogemeyer's or the engineers will change on that. But that's where my concern lies more than in these change orders that are being brought to you guys.
Thank you. All right, looking for a motion
I
then.
was just gonna say, with that being said, I'll move to approve change order number 19, FIN, the amount of $34,601.30, correct, Danielle?
Yes.
Okay, and authorize the village administrator to execute all documents related to the change order, on behalf of the governing body.
I'll support that.
Moved and supported. Any other discussion?
Just that we'll be looking for a change order 20 then potentially for the cost of the labor to do that.
Correct, yes. So we'll have a change order 20, which will be just their actual labor for only the 2 new valves, not the rerouting.
Lisa, go ahead.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
James,
Yes, the motion passes. Randy, keep it up, buddy, we're almost there. Denise, thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
You're welcome.
On to reports. Parks and Rec. Questions for Eric?
How are the trees going, Eric?
Good. We got 8 left, I believe. 1 for each of you, I think. So,
We actually sold another one today, so we got 7, 1 for each of you.
oh, there you go.
He is so, you are just so witty, Mr.
We'll
Mayor.
deliver.
Eric, is there anything you want to highlight for us?
No, this, as you see in that report, I've been talking with Anita Bryant, Anita Holland, and, we're meeting again this weekend to discuss and bring back a proposal to Danielle to roll out to you guys the first part of January to see, you know, what she's interested in, and to get approval, and see what your thoughts are on the pool additions and what you'd like to see done. So we've met quite a few times. That's a very good discussion, so.
Great,
So,
look forward to that. Any questions for Eric?
Yeah, looking for the numbers, to be able to supply numbers. You do after the soccer league has been completed, how many participants there have been,
we
things
can
of
do
that
that.
nature.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. The Spark grant, my understanding is some things had to be done for some surveys. Have that been started or not started yet, do you know?
I don't believe it's been started yet. No.
Okay, okay.
It is in progress. It's been started since Yuletide.
I thought it was part of that survey that you got, that you kind of sent out that has some parking rep questions on it.
We had, there's several questions. It's not just, one of the questions though is the old pool site, which is specific to the Parks and Rec program. We had a table at Yuletide where we talked to a lot of residents. I've shared numerous times on Constant Contact Facebook. It'll be going out in the water bills on the 1st as well. There's a vision board here at the office. I've got QR codes. We so far right now have about 200 surveys completed. Our goal was 350, so we're really trying to push them. That is open through December 16th. So if any of you in the audience have not done your survey, get on it. No, I'm just kidding. But share with your friends, family, whoever has not, because we would love to have that feedback and get some ideas from you guys. And that's for the whole master plan, but we specifically included that old pool site question so that we could start moving forward and planning. And the goal with Parks and Recreation would be to apply for a Spark grant and try to get something done over there and get that site cleaned up and usable.
Eric, are you gonna be talking with someone regarding the tennis courts, repair / resurfacing? Is that something that Daniel works on? Or
Danielle has
do you
been
work on it together?
talking, we've been briefly talking about that, and you have that proposed.
I have quotes to do both repair and or resurface to the tennis courts. It's in our capital improvement project. It was requested this year. Council did not approve it, but it is on our radar.
I suggest if any of you ever get the time, please contact me, and there's some huge flaws in the design of that court. And whatever we do, it's gonna come back in 2 or 3 years again without major renovation on it. This was designed very poorly. And you can see there's channels that run across, 2 channels on each side, all the way across lengthwise of the tennis courts. And that's where the majority of the cracks start. It's almost like a bowling gutter almost. And that's where a lot of the cracks start. And I don't know, I wasn't there to see it built, but that's a big problem. But hopefully we can get something done and possibly, do one of those sizes pickleball also.
Eric, regarding your discussions with Ms. Holland, how representative have you been with working with Danielle, the sort of things that the village wants to see accomplished out there? I know she may have her wish list or her ideas that she wants, but there's things that we have talked about, the second wear course on the asphalt parking lot.
Right.
The improvements to the concession or building, that sort of stuff. Have you taken our goals or our wish list?
Yeah, Daniel and I have talked a little bit about that, and mentioned those to Anita also, and kind of the things that she's looking at and not finalized for you, anyone's approval. Concession was one of them. I did mention the parking lot, which she wasn't too up on. She wants to do landscaping.
I mean, that was a big part of it too, so.
Landscaping was a big
Again,
part.
trying to solve the things that we haven't been able to, or.
And some type of pavilion on the side of the building, which we've gotten a couple different quotes. And so that's, or,
I'm sorry.
no, that's probably three main things she's looking at was those minus the parking lot, but you know. What was you gonna say, Dana?
You're good.
Okay.
Sorry.
And just a reminder, pool passes go on sale next month.
December 5th.
As the pool is a topic of conversation. DDA Main Street report. Any highlights for us, Laura?
We had a very successful Yuletide weekend.
Yes.
Record crowds and great volunteer attendance, and we added 2 events that were all well attended and paid for themselves. So we were very happy with Yuletide. We are implementing first Thursdays in January, and the first 3 months of January are well underway with committee work, and all the other committees are starting to meet. We have Parade of Lights and Wassel Fest this next month. So we're doing really well. We're working, we got the draft back for the master plan. We're working on our RRC. We had an accreditation meeting with the board today via Zoom with the with the Economic Development Corporation. And we had a full board with the addition of April Wolf, so we're very excited about that. We have a great staff that supports me in every way, and it's working really well. So if you have any questions of anything that's going on, be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Laura?
No, just congrats to you and your volunteers for Yuletide. I was down there a couple different days and it was a great presentation and heard several comments from people, so.
Thank you, and
Good comments.
I give full credit to the committee led by Ann Lambert. She's the dynamo, and she really got it done. So she's amazing, and the whole team from Vince Magnato all the way across the board. Just great people to work with.
Big event, need a good group.
Yes, very good group, and a lot of you helped, and I appreciate. James was out meeting the public, giving out Blissfield bucks. Jerry was our bingo caller. Gwen was on major duty, so we appreciate all of the board presence there as well.
Well, thank you from all of us. Council discussion. Do you have any unfinished business? Go ahead, Mike.
Again, not to drag this meeting on, it's 9 o'clock, but I could think that's something that maybe this next sitting of the council, we can utilize and efficiently utilize the committee meetings for these, where we're gonna have these long drawn out talks. Again, I don't want the public to not be informed, but I don't wanna sit here and talk about, I don't wanna rubber stamp through everything, but I don't wanna talk about our lawyer, evaluations, that sort of stuff. Those are things that we can solve, again, at the committee meetings and have a good down here discussion. I think this is more, these committee or these council meetings are more important for the public to get here, to get the information that they need, again, to talk through our agenda and move it forward. Again, the larger ticket items, let's not bring them to the agenda right away. Let's sit down, break through and discuss them at these committee meetings, and then kind of move forward as we need to, and we can still get that information out to the public. But again, not just sit here till, the end of time discussing these things that we could, whether we break them down as to smaller committees, which we do, or whether we keep it as a committee of the whole. Again, there's different options, different solutions to get it, but I think the public would rather probably see us be a little bit more efficient in these meetings.
Thank you. Eric, I know you.
I don't have any comments at this time.
All right. Tim? Nope. Glenn?
Nothing at this time.
Jerry? All All right, I concur with that, Mike. One of the things I put in the paper was raising this more to an executive level, so I'll work on that. And public comments, not on the agenda. Yes, sir, go ahead. Come on up to the podium, state your name and address for us.
Sure will. My name is Louis Escobedo. I live at 460 North Lane here in Blissfield. I come back again to see if we can, I wrote down, I don't know if I'm allowed to make recommendations to alter policies, make amendments to existing policy. And I would like to propose to amend the policy that was instituted to raise the minimum water to all residents to $104 a month when we're not here, whether it's used or not used. And what I would like to propose is that those who in the past were paying $55 a month when we were gone, to go back to paying $55 a month, and it's us being kind of grandfathered. And anybody who wants a water shut off after this policy was enacted, have them pay the $104 a month. I prefer to pay zero like I have for many, many years, but I don't think that's gonna be feasible. And I would like to have the council to consider grandfathering everybody in the past who had paid $55 a month to go back to paying $55 a month, even though we're not even using a drop of water.
I can share with you that I did, after your conversation at the last meeting, I did talk with Danielle about that, and I did ask her the question about the water being turned off at the road and what you had commented about. And Danielle gave me a pretty succinct answer, and it was essentially that with the budget, et cetera, that the $104 is the minimum, and we've always charged the minimum, and that was my understanding from you, is that past practice is the minimum. I understand that the minimum used to be 55.
Past practice was zero.
Well, I'm gonna go back to the 55 you alluded to as well. And when Danielle talked about that, because I really did, I was like, well, how does this work? Where did the change occur? And she explained that process. And she explained the process to me. She said that she had explained that process to you as well.
Yeah, doesn't mean I agree with it. I mean, I don't agree with someone coming out of the truck to pull my water meter off when shut it off to the street is more than adequate. It worked for the last 20 years. Why does the water meter have to be pulled off for I have to come here for get a $75 permit? They pay a plumber $90 to reinstall a water meter when shut it off the street.
I agree.
It's much simpler.
I chewed on it too after talking with you at the last meeting, and I agree, there's things that we should possibly do more efficiently and think them out. Again, sending the DPW out to shut the water off makes sense. Why we have to pull the meter and then get a plumbing inspector back out there and whatnot to put it all back together. Again, we're not reinventing the wheel. There's a million other municipalities out there that can do this. It's just coming up with a better solution. The ready to serve fee, unfortunately, that's what it costs. That's what it's costing us. Again, in the past, we didn't forethought on doing the infrastructure improvements, on paying off this wastewater treatment plant, on paying off improvements to the water treatment plant. So the ready to serve is what it costs us to maintain and operate those facilities. I mean, that has to be there, because if you don't pay it for the rest of the year, then we're just gonna have to raise the wages or the rates for the other residents, the other water users to make up for that. It costs us, say, $1.5 million a year to produce the water. We have to take that in. So that's just that ready to serve fee. And I get that it's frustrating. We all hate paying it because we do pay it, but we have to pay for those infrastructure improvements that, number one, the state's putting on us, the Eagle's putting on us, and down the line, and planning ahead to say, okay, we're gonna have to replace these sandcast mains throughout the village. How are we gonna do it without raising, again, rates another 10-15% down the line?
So
It's more of a preparedness sort of thing. I get we don't like it, but you should see a lot less of the massive jumps when we have to pay for these large scale improvements.
I like to see no jumps.
I get that too, but we all know the.
So
way the
if I
rates are.
when I get ready to leave to go down south for the winter, and I just have a water shut off the street and nothing else done to my house.
I don't see why we couldn't come up with a better solution. Again, we were trying to solve,
Danielle has given
we
him
were
those
trying to
solutions.
solve other problems with, you know, how do we bill the trailers in the trailer park as being independent residents or being stock or whatever, and that was the solution to that. So again, it's something that we need to sit down as a board and say, what is the most efficient, easy way to do this?
I
Again,
think.
there's no
Danielle
reason
has-
to pull the meters. if we
Danielle
don't have
has explained all of this to him, and could you?
I can make a key wrench, I can shut off myself,
Could you
save you guys some
explain the
hours.
rationale, Danielle, as briefly,
Well,
as succinctly as you
I
possibly
mean,
can?
there's a couple different things, so if we shut the water off there, BPW's called out to do that, who's gonna monitor to make sure water's not turned on? It used to be that water shut off, so you'd have to have a special wrench to go do that, now you can go to the hardware store and buy them, so whomever, and I'm not saying you do this, comes back from town, they turn their water on and we're not reading that meter, then how do we then bill them? for
I shut
that
it off
usage?
inside my house as well.
We should still.
I shut off the, inside my house, I shut off the water.
Then they should be paying for the service.
Yeah, there's no way around that. We have to pay the ready to serve fee. I mean, that's just how.
So that's what I had explained to him, is that he's paying that fee. Now, if he goes and has the meter pulled, he has no service. And then therefore doesn't have the fee, but he has to have the meter pulled. As long as that meter's there, he is ready to be served, and we have to go over there and check that meter to make sure that it's not being used.
It was never an issue for the last 20 years, I'm doing this ago. I've never had an issue, never, not once.
We understand that.
It was an issue the last 20 years, because that's why the village is in the position it's in with the
Exactly.
finances for water and sewer. Had we addressed these issues and done slow gradual increases to our rates, we wouldn't be where we are today. I can't go back and change time, nor can anybody else here, so how do we move forward? And again, I understand your frustration, and none of us are saying that we don't understand you. It's just, we are tasked with paying for our needs with water and sewer and funding that through fees.
So you're telling me that you will still, I will still have to be paying or you're not gonna send somebody out to shut off my water at the street then?
We'll go shut your water off at the street, but you
That's
will
all I want.
continue paying the minimum charge.
Okay, but just, like I said last time, sir, I don't want my meter pulled, because I don't want by chance to get somebody else's meter.
Yeah, you are more than welcome to request having your water shut off at the curb. We have no issue doing that, but you will be charged the minimum availability fee.
Okay. Happy, but okay.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Or supported, Lisa, please call the roll.
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
James.
Yes, the motion passes. Meeting's adjourned. Next meeting, December 12th, 2022.